So, diving into Homer's The Odyssey, huh? With that new movie coming out. Smart move. It's a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
It's got it all. Adventure, drama, timeless themes. We've got a ton of great sources to unpack this epic poem. We've got a detailed thematic analysis. We've got a skeptical take on some of Odysseus's tales.
That's always fun.
And we even found a quick video summary.
Perfect.
If you've never encountered the Odyssey before, we're going to break it all down.
Yep.
The story, the characters, and the deeper meaning. We'll explore it all together.
What's fascinating about the Odyssey, is that it's not just a thrilling adventure story. It's also, a reflection of the human condition.
Mm-hmm.
It explores themes of home and identity, resilience, and even the power of storytelling itself.
Right. And at the center of it all is Odysseus.
Right.
This Greek hero trying to get home after the Trojan War.
Exactly.
Except his journey takes, get this, 10 years.
Wow.
And it's packed with these crazy encounters and challenges along the way.
And that's where it gets really interesting. The poem doesn't even start with Odysseus. It actually begins with his son, Telemachus, back home, dealing with all sorts of problems in Ithaca.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Odysseus has been gone for years, presumed dead, and back in Ithaca, his wife Penelope is being hounded by all these suitors, vying for her hand in marriage.
Right.
They're basically trying to usurp Odysseus' kingdom. Poor Telemachus is caught right in the middle of all this.
Exactly. And this disrespect, for Telemachus and this whole attempt to take over Odysseus' kingdom, that's a key theme right from the start. It sets the stage for the conflicts and challenges that Odysseus is going to face when he eventually returns.
So our thematic analysis breaks the Odyssey down into 4 parts, almost like acts in a play. And the first 4 books really set the stage.
Right, books 1 to 4. They introduce us to Telemachus, those pesky suitors, and this idea of home. But home isn't just a physical place in the Odyssey. It's more about relationships and identity, finding one's place in the world. This is something that Odysseus is going to grapple with throughout his entire journey.
Okay, so Act 1 ends with us wondering, where in the world is Odysseus?
And that's where books 5-13 come in Odysseus' grand adventures. This is where we meet the Cyclops, the sirens, the nymph Calypso.
The sirens.
And a whole host of other mythical creatures and perilous situations.
It's like a highlight reel of epic encounters. But these aren't just fantastical stories, right?
Absolutely not.
I mean, there's got to be more to it.
Each encounter, each of these trials, they reveal something about Odysseus' character.
Right.
His cunning, his bravery, but also his flaws.
Right, like his encounter with the Cyclops, Polyphemus.
Yes.
It's easy to get caught up in the thrilling, monster story.
It highlights Odysseus' cleverness, but also his hubris. That excessive pride that can lead to recklessness.
By blinding Polyphemus, Odysseus actually incurs the wrath of Poseidon, the sea god, and that creates a whole new set of problems for him.
So Odysseus is outsmarting monsters, but also creating enemies along the way. It's a classic case of actions having consequences.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Odysseus is having these wild adventures, but he does eventually start heading back home, right?
Yes, he does. Books 14-22 deal with his long-awaited return to Ithaca. But of course, it's not a simple welcome home party. He arrives in disguise, carefully assessing the situation before revealing his identity.
It's like he's a stranger in his own land.
Exactly. And, this part of the Odyssey can be seen as a metaphor for the challenges that we all face in reclaiming our home. Whether it's a physical place, a sense of belonging, or even our own identity, after experiencing some kind of change or hardship. It requires patience, strategy, and understanding. Wow. So Odysseus' homecoming is about more than just getting back to his family. It's about reclaiming his place in the world. This is getting really interesting. What about the ending? Do Odysseus and Penelope finally reunite?
They do, but not without some twists and turns. Books 23-24 wrap up the epic, showing Odysseus reclaiming his kingdom and reuniting with Penelope. But it's not a simple happily ever after ending.
There's got to be more to it than that.
The ending reinforces this idea that building a good life, a life of purpose and meaning, creates a legacy that extends beyond our own lifespan. Odysseus has proven his strength, his resilience, his cunning. But ultimately, it's his commitment to his family and his kingdom that ensures his lasting impact.
So it's like Odysseus' journey is a reminder that our actions have ripple effects. We're not just living for ourselves, we're contributing to a larger story.
Exactly.
The story of our families, our communities, and humanity as a whole.
Precisely. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we have another source here that casts a bit of doubt on Odysseus' reliability as a narrator.
Oh, yeah.
The skeptic. Yeah.
They suggest that maybe Odysseus was embellishing his adventures a little, which, let's face it, wouldn't be totally out of character for a guy known for his trickery.
Right. He is a master of deception and storytelling.
Right. He comes up with an elaborate backstory for his old sheepherder, and don't forget he returns home in disguise. This guy's a natural storyteller.
All right.
So, how much of his Odyssey was real? And does it even matter if the stories hold deeper truths?
That's a fascinating question. It brings us to another layer of the Odyssey, the power of storytelling itself.
Yeah.
Even if Odysseus stretched the truth a little bit, the underlying messages about resilience, resourcefulness, and the importance of home, they still resonate.
Right.
And, that brings us to another interesting point raised by one of our sources, this connection between life, death, and hope.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
This source suggests that Odysseus's men were ultimately defeated not by monsters or storms, but by their own weariness and despair. They had given up hope of ever returning home.
So they were defeated by their own hopelessness. That's a powerful thought.
And this source goes on to suggest that death itself is a form of hopelessness, because the dead can't affect the world or change their fate.
Yeah.
They have no hope left.
It's a stark contrast to Odysseus, who never gives up hope,
Exactly.
even in the face of seemingly impossible odds.
Right.
It makes you wonder, if Odysseus's men had held on to hope, would the Odyssey have unfolded differently?
Right.
Would they have made different choices?
It's a great question.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. We've only just begun to scratch the surface of the Odyssey, and I'm already seeing it in a whole new light.
We've laid the groundwork, but there's so much more to explore. Welcome back.
Okay.
Last time, we left off with this intriguing idea
Right.
that maybe, Odysseus was embellishing his adventures a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the question of, does the truth even matter if the stories themselves
Yeah.
reveal deeper truths about human nature?
It's so fascinating to think about how storytelling works.
Right.
Like how we use stories to, make sense of the world,
Right.
to entertain, to convey important lessons. And sometimes a little bit of exaggeration or, creative license can make those stories even more impactful.
That's a great point. And speaking of impactful stories, one that really stands out in the Odyssey is, Odysseus's encounter with the sirens.
Oh yeah, the sirens.
Yeah.
Those mythical creatures
Exactly.
that lure sailors to their deaths with their irresistible songs.
Exactly. And this episode, it isn't just about Odysseus resisting temptation.
Right.
It's a powerful metaphor for the distractions and dangers that can derail us from our goals in life.
So how does Odysseus escape their deadly allure?
Well, he's warned about the sirens beforehand.
Right.
So he knows he has to be prepared. He has his crew plug their ears with beeswax
Ah.
so they can't hear the enchanting songs. And he has them tie him to the mast of the ship.
Wait, so he wants to hear the sirens. Why would he put himself through that?
That's the clever part.
Okay.
Odysseus is curious, and he wants to experience the sirens' song firsthand.
Right.
But he knows that, if he gives in to their allure, he'll be doomed. So he takes precautions to
Yeah.
protect himself, even from his own curiosity.
That's brilliant. It's like he's acknowledging the power of temptation, but finding a way to experience it without being destroyed by it.
Exactly. And this episode, can be seen as a metaphor for the challenges we all face in staying focused on our goals. We're constantly bombarded with distractions,
Yeah.
social media, instant gratification,
Right.
the allure of the easy path,
Oh, yeah.
things that can pull us away from what truly matters.
So the sirens represent those distractions, and Odysseus' strategy
Yes.
is a lesson in self-control and finding a balance between, curiosity and discipline.
Exactly. It's about being aware of the things that can tempt us off course
Right.
and finding ways to navigate them without losing sight of our destination.
That's a really valuable takeaway, and it
Yeah.
makes you appreciate, the depth of the Odyssey.
Yeah.
It's not just about physical adventures.
Right.
It's about navigating the complexities of human nature.
Mhm.
What other adventures in the Odyssey stand out to you in terms of their symbolic meaning?
Well, Odysseus' journey to the underworld is particularly fascinating. He actually travels to the realm of the dead
Wow.
to seek advice from the prophet Tiresias.
Wait, hold on. The underworld.
Yes.
Why would he go there?
It seems like a strange detour, right?
Yeah.
But this journey is a pivotal moment in the Odyssey.
Okay.
It's not just about Odysseus, seeking guidance, but it's about him confronting his own mortality.
So it's a journey of self-discovery as much as a physical journey.
Exactly. By venturing into the underworld, Odysseus is, facing his fears.
Right.
acknowledging the reality of death,
Yeah.
and gaining a deeper understanding of life's preciousness. And it's in the underworld that he receives crucial advice from Tiresias
Right.
on how to appease the gods and finally make it home.
Wow. So it's a high-stakes trip.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about the role of fate in the Odyssey. How much control did Odysseus really have over his journey? Was it all preordained by the gods? Or did his choices shape his path?
That's a question that scholars have debated for centuries.
Wow.
Some argue that Odysseus's fate was predetermined by the gods,
Why?
while others believe he had agency. That his choices and actions directly influenced his journey.
So maybe it's a bit of both. Like the gods set the stage,
Right.
but Odysseus's decisions determine how he navigates the challenges.
That's a very plausible interpretation, and
Yeah.
it speaks to the enduring human struggle between fate and free will. This idea that we may not always control the circumstances we face,
Right.
but we do have the power to choose how we respond to them.
I'm starting to see how the Odyssey is layered with these profound themes that are still relevant today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about home, temptation, mortality, and fate. What stands out to you as the most important takeaway from the Odyssey?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
There are so many rich layers to this epic, but I think it's the emphasis on building a good life.
Right.
A life filled with purpose, meaningful connections, and a legacy that extends, beyond our own existence.
That's like Odysseus' journey is a reminder that our actions have ripple effects. Like we're not just living for ourselves, we're contributing to a larger story.
Exactly. And this idea of legacy, it ties into the concept of immortality that was mentioned in our thematic analysis. Not immortality in a literal sense,
Right.
but the idea that we can achieve, a kind of timelessness through the impact we have on the world and the people we leave behind.
That's a beautiful way to think about it.
Right.
So even though the Odyssey is an ancient text, it still has so much to offer us today.
Absolutely. And even if you've never read it before, you can still appreciate, its timeless wisdom.
Right.
It encourages us to be resourceful, to persevere in the face of adversity, and to never give up hope,
Right.
even when the odds seem stacked against us.
It's like if Odysseus can navigate treacherous seas, outsmart mythical creatures, and even escape the underworld,
Right.
maybe we can face our own challenges with a bit more courage and determination.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that, even heroes struggle, even heroes make mistakes. It's those imperfections that make them relatable
Yeah.
and ultimately make their triumphs even more meaningful.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here,
Yeah.
but there's still so much more to explore. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Odyssey. We've talked about Odysseus' epic journey,
Right.
the symbolism and those, deeper themes. But what really brings this story to life
Yes.
are the characters.
Absolutely. And I think it's time we give Penelope, Odysseus' wife, her due. She's often seen as this symbol of faithfulness and patience. But there's so much more to her character.
Right. She's incredibly resilient, holding down the fort in Ithaca for 10 years
Yeah.
while fending off those persistent suitors.
Right.
But she's not just, waiting around passively, is she?
No, not at all. Penelope is incredibly intelligent and resourceful. Remember that whole weaving ruse she uses to delay the suitors?
Oh, yeah, the shroud. He tells him she'll choose a husband once she finishes weaving a burial shroud for Odysseus' father.
Right.
But she secretly unravels her work every night,
Exactly.
buying herself precious time.
It's a brilliant strategy that showcases, her cunning and her determination to protect her family and her kingdom.
It's like she's a master strategist in her own right,
Yes.
mirroring Odysseus' cleverness in a different way. What else makes Penelope such a compelling character?
Well, her unwavering belief in Odysseus' return is, it's incredibly powerful. Even when everyone else assumes he's dead, she never gives up hope. And I think it speaks to, the strength of their bond and the enduring power of love and loyalty.
And it makes their eventual reunion all the more powerful. After 10 years of waiting and uncertainty, they finally get their happy ending.
It's a truly epic moment, but it's not without its complexities. Penelope doesn't immediately recognize Odysseus when he finally returns. He's in disguise, testing her loyalty.
Yeah, well, that always struck me as a bit harsh. I mean, after everything she's been through, he still puts her through that final test.
It's understandable that you'd see it that way, but It highlights Odysseus's cautious nature, even with those he loves most.
Right.
He's been through so much betrayal and deception that, he needs that reassurance.
So it's like their relationship has been forged in the fires of adversity, and this final test is a way for them to prove, the depth of their bond. So they pass the test and live happily ever after.
Right. Well, the poem ends with their reunion, but it does leave some things open to interpretation. What's important is that they've weathered the storm, both literally and figuratively, and they've come out stronger on the other side.
It's a reminder that even the strongest relationships face challenges.
Yeah.
And that true love requires trust, understanding, and forgiveness.
Beautifully said. Now, we've talked about Odysseus and Penelope, but there are other characters that play, significant roles in this epic.
Right, like the gods, for example.
Yes.
They seem to be pulling a lot of strings behind the scenes.
Absolutely. The gods are constantly meddling in human affairs, sometimes helping Odysseus, sometimes hindering him. It reflects the ancient Greek belief that fate and free will were kind of intertwined, that even heroes were subject to, the whims of the divine.
So who are the key players in, this divine drama of the Odyssey?
Well, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, is Odysseus's biggest champion. She's constantly intervening on his behalf, guiding him, protecting him, even inspiring, his strategic thinking.
It's like she's his divine mentor.
Yeah.
Helping him, tap into his full potential.
Exactly. Athena represents the power of intellect, strategy, and perseverance. She shows that even heroes need guidance and support.
And that sometimes a little divine intervention can go a long way. Are there any gods who aren't so fond of Odysseus?
Well, Poseidon, the god of the sea, is Odysseus's main antagonist. Remember how Odysseus blinded Polyphemus the Cyclops? Well, Polyphemus happens to be Poseidon's son.
Oh, right. So Poseidon's out for revenge.
Exactly. And Poseidon represents those untamed forces of nature, the unpredictable challenges that Odysseus has to overcome. He throws storms and obstacles in Odysseus's path, making his journey home that much more perilous.
It's like this cosmic battle of wills between man and the gods.
Yeah.
It makes you appreciate the, epic scale of this story.
Yeah.
So we've explored the characters, the themes, the symbolism. What's the, lasting impact of the Odyssey? Why does it continue to resonate with readers, centuries later?
The Odyssey is, more than just an adventure story.
Right.
It's a timeless reflection on the human experience. It explores themes of home, identity, resilience, the power of storytelling, the complexities of fate and free will.
It's a story that reminds us that the journey is just as important as the destination. And that even when we face, seemingly insurmountable challenges, we can find a way to persevere, to grow, and ultimately to find our way home.
Beautifully said. The Odyssey encourages us to embrace our own journeys, to learn from our experiences, and to strive to live lives, filled with purpose and meaning.
And to never underestimate the power of a good story. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the Odyssey. We hope you've gained a new appreciation for this, timeless classic.
Yeah.
And that it inspires you to embark on your own epic adventures, both literal and metaphorical.